Hi, welcome back to Faith and Conviction. I'm your host Ray Harris and want to welcome you to this week's Torah portion where we are looking at Torah portion Parashah 26. And it comes from the book of Vayikra, which means he called in English, but we know the book is Leviticus. We're going to be looking at Leviticus chapter 9 verse 1 down through chapter 11 verse 47. And this Torah portion name is Miני, which means eighth. Not eight, but eighth. So, Miני is the third word in Leviticus 9, verse 1, and that Strong's number is H8066. And Brown Driver Briggs tells us that this means that it is for the ordinal position, eighth. Now, that's kind of an interesting thing because we do know the number 8 and the reference point of eighth. But you can count it down. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you've counted out 8. But when you're talking about something in line, you say first, second, third, fourth, and you come down to eighth in line. So we're talking about an ordinal, a positional number. So this word is found approximately 30 times in the Hebrew. And it's found in Exodus, Leviticus, it's in Numbers, it's in Kings, Chronicles, Nehemiah, Ezekiel, and Zechariah. So it's over in quite a few books. But we want to look at Leviticus 9 and verse 1. And the King James has it, and it came to pass on the 8th day. And the Complete Jewish Bible says 8th day. The Jewish Publication Society, this text that I use as my base, says 8th day. And when we get over into the Greek of the translation from the Hebrew into the Greek for the Old Testament, it is Agdae, which will be translated out as eighth, and we'll see that as we come over into the New Testament. So it is an interesting thing that happens in this text. This is not really an exciting word per se because it doesn't really have a significant amount of impact, but the way in which we refer to things, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, matter. There's a first day of the week, a second day of the week, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And so on the 8th, it means 7 have gone before it. So when we look at this over into the New Testament, it's Agdaos, and that's Greek number G3590. And Thayer defines it as the 8th position. Again, it's an ordinal, so we got to be careful that we don't call it 8, we call it 8th with a TH at the end of it. So there's several times that it's in the New Testament, but I only want to look at 3 of them, and I think it's found 5 times in the New Testament. But I just want to talk about 3 because I think they're kind of neat. I think you'll like it. 2 Peter 2 and verse 5 reads this way, "And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person." Now you'd think kind of the text would say Noah was the first person, but it's actually saying he's the 8th. And a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly. Now there are 2 more verses on this. Acts 7 and verse 8, "And he gave him the covenant of circumcision, and so Abraham begat Isaac, and circumcised him," being Isaac, "on the 8th day." Now this goes all the way back about when God instructed when to circumcise. "And Isaac begat Jacob, and Jacob begat the 12 patriarchs." So 8th day is when the circumcision of Jacob took place, and that's according to the law of Moses. But look over in Luke chapter 1 verse 59. "And it came to pass that on the 8th day they came to circumcise the child, and they called him Zacharias, after the name of his father." Now this is where we're talking about John the Baptizer being born, and they were going to name him on the 8th day. But the happenstance they wanted to do was to name him after his father, but Zacharias said, "No, we're going to name him John." So it's very interesting, these things that take place, these things that happen on the 8th day, and how powerful the 8th day is. And there's a lot of connections between Moses and Messiah about these 8th days and what happens in between and how things renew when we get to the 8th day. So it's powerful, it's cool. It's one of these words that really doesn't have a lot of interconnectivity for us this week, but it's still interesting to see how we can take the Hebrew, understand it by the Greek of the Old Testament, to see that Greek word in the New Testament, so we can understand what's being conveyed in the English. And this is important and it's powerful. So until next time, I continue to seek God, know Messiah, find hope.